Hello everyone and welcome to our show. Today we discuss about content rate optimization, how you can increase your conversions, and I'm excited to discuss this topic with Justin. How are you?
Hey, not too bad. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for me it's a big pleasure because I check out your profile. You have extended experience, so I'm so excited to learn more about that. And I'd like to thank you, our sponsor, SEO Ranking, a top-related all-in-one SEO platform. I like SEO Ranking for their very accurate rank tracker tool, which shows your daily rankings for your website in 5 search engines. It's a lot. For any location, device, or language, you can monitor Google Maps results in the 35 search features for every keyword and much more. You can use rankings 40 days for free. Just use it and subscribe. Okay, Justin, before we start, just tell more about your Excel experience, background, and why you decided to share with us about conversion rate optimization.
Yeah, so I've been doing digital marketing. I'm approaching year 22. So I've been doing it a very long time before the internet is what we know it today, obviously, back kind of in the Wild West internet marketing days, but moved up through the ranks, had my own direct-to-consumer business that I had sold after we grew it to about 8 figures a year in revenue. And then started what's now Conversion Fanatics about 8.5 years ago, and we actually just recently merged with a larger agency just about a month ago to basically spearhead their optimization department. But yeah, we've been very fortunate to have worked with some of the biggest and best brands in the world. Many you've likely heard of, many you probably haven't, and continue to do so every single day, helping them improve their marketing performance and creating better experiences for their visitors.
Nice, nice. Can you tell the main difference between cooperating with big companies, clients, and with small ones that started their journey? They have no loyal audience and have a goal, to grow in one day. What is the main difference between them?
Really the difference, it comes down to the message market match of the product, I would say, is probably the biggest thing. So when you're young and you're just starting, I just talked to a company here just a little bit ago, a woman that bought a company that was doing 10 to 20 sales a day out of Australia. And, comparative to that, to say something like a Fortune 500 company that we get to work with, really the steps are kind of the same. It's just really just figuring out what really matters to your visitors and how can you execute and find that message market match. So once you find that and get that kind of proof of concept, then it's easy to really just wash, rinse, and repeat and scale it. And really where it's just the methods that we use from an optimization perspective. We might take a more qualitative approach. So we might just use surveys and click maps and scroll maps versus you actually using A/B testing and all of those other metrics to really drive out that performance. So when you're young, you're just going to start and ask questions. So just ask visitors, what's holding you back from buying our product, or what questions weren't we able to answer for you today? And then making your changes to your site based on that, instead of just trying to say, oh, I think it should be this, or I'm trying to figure out, I know a lot of people get caught in that trap where they just make changes because they might see some ideas from, another website, or they might think something needs to convert better, or they think it looks better or something. And then they get caught in that trap and they're not really basing it on any actual feasible data or metrics or feedback.
Yeah, I think it depends on the strategy. By the way, I think many companies that just started their journey, they are looking for or chasing, high volume keywords, and it's hard to convert. Even if you get traffic, it's really hard to rank these keywords, but it's more hard to convert with these keywords. For example, if I get SEO in the top 10 results, I'm not sure that I can sell SEO services, because it's more related with creating brand awareness for big companies, like, I don't know, Href, SEMrush, New Patel, many others. So I think it's better to find the right strategy. Can you tell how to create the right strategy that considers buying journey and our sales funnel unique selling proposition?
Yeah, so I treat a website kind of like a brick and mortar business almost. And when I think of that customer journey and that flow, so your ad, your ranking, your whatever is going to get them into the parking lot. So think of it as like a shopping mall. You know, something's going to get them into the parking lot, a want, a need. They searched, they found you, they've seen something. Now we have to engage them in that buying process. So what's going to capture their attention? What's going to get them clicking and shopping? You know, get them actually in the door. You know, that's your homepage, your collections pages in the e-commerce world, or it's your landing page that's giving away a free download in exchange for email. You know, it's something that's your foot in the door. And then what can we do to build that trust and help them find and make that buying decision? So it really just comes down to a handful of real elements. It's capturing their attention, stating the benefits that your product is actually going to do for them, and then reversing the risk. You know, that can be something in a money back guarantee. It could be split payment options. It could be, you know, warranty information. It could be social proof that you're adding onto it. It could be bonuses, but we try to figure out what pieces of those puzzle need to go in the right order that will help improve that journey along the way. So, you know, it's not as enough to, you know, have a, you know, high ranking website or, you know, really effective, you know, super high budget for a pay-per-click campaign, for example. Mm-hmm. You have to capture their attention. And in the days of, you know, Amazon and all of these other, you know, very quick and rapid solutions, you need to set yourself apart from that. So it's a lot of brand equity, and it's creating that. I keep going back to the word experience because that's kind of what we are. But in our social environments, there's a lot of social aspects to that, and people are more likely to spend money and more money if they deem the experience to be a positive one, and they are more likely to tell their friends and family and share it on social and do all of those things that we can't necessarily put down on a spreadsheet and give those specific examples. So instead, we try to look at the bigger overall picture and the journey and where visitors are going, where they're falling off in that process. That's kind of how I approach it from, you know, it's particularly that's younger and newer and maybe starting to get some traction.
I have the question about common mistakes that you can see when websites, webmasters do optimizing landing pages. For example, I have a client and he spent $20,000 for pay-per-click campaigns and got sales $100. You know, yeah. It's really hard to compare. And I check out the landing page. Of course, it's not my strong side, but I found that compared to other competitors, he doesn't have reviews. I mean, like he has some reviews from Trustpilot, but it doesn't look good. You know, I don't know why, but I can have the feeling that something is wrong with these reviews. Can you tell about common mistakes that website owners can do, and how I don't know how to start checking that something is wrong with landing pages?
Well, really, you're going to want to get, again, going back to the qualitative feedback. So you're going to want to get heat maps on the site first and foremost, just to see where they're clicking and what they're actually paying attention to and how far they're scrolling on the page and certain elements. But the big things that I look for and some of the common mistakes are, probably the biggest one is the company talks too much about themselves. So it's all about me instead of all about me as the consumer. So what I care about, what are the key benefits, not what are the key features. I see a lot of companies being like, I have X, Y, and Z as part of my product. And I particularly see more of this in software as a service, but they talk about how great their features are and how great they are as a company and all of this instead of why should I care that I'm trying to buy this product, or that I have this need or this want that I want somebody to solve that I'm in search of. So I really tie it back to a lot of benefit statements and then support the benefits with the features. And I've said this for many, many years, is so many companies are shouting how great they are instead of trying to solve that problem, you know, through their marketing messages. So that's the number one. I've seen a lot of products sell without social proof, without those testimonials and those reviews. They help and they're an amplifier, but some audiences don't shop that way, and for particularly different products. So it's all about taking that risk off their plate, either with, money back guarantee or warranty, or, expectations of, speed of implementation, or whatever you can do to kind of set your differentiator. And then all it really comes down to is, if you have a simple landing page, and if I could do this all day, every day, I would, and that was just test headlines. Simple and trivial, but I'm an old school copywriter from way back. So if I test enough headlines, the law of averages is I'm going to see a 20 to 30% bump in my conversion rate. But it's how you approach the optimization, or how you approach those headlines. You can use it in like 16 words or less, essentially, to figure out what benefit of the product, or what hot button. You can test a bunch of different hot buttons very quickly to figure out what the visitors, really truly care about when they're searching out those answers. Once you find that, then you can kind of expand that through the rest of your marketing message, and really just exploit it, for lack of better terms, throughout the entire customer journey.
You mentioned about old school copywriting. I love it, by the way. I think, many things are coming to old school because of human psychology. Many years, marketers pay a lot of attention to optimize for search engines, but today it's not. All search engines and platforms, they serve humans. And I think if you can write text for a human, optimize for a human, then search engines and any platform can understand much better about this content. Can you tell about your best practices of writing headlines? It's short, like 60 symbols, around that. I don't know, 50 symbols, 70 symbols, it depends, but it's short. And I know it's hard to write these headlines. When I write them, I usually wanna add everything, about my products, my features, to share my story, but I can't. Can you tell about best practices, how to optimize headline and to catch attention of potential customers?
So what I usually do, particularly in a headline formula, there's a ton of different solutions out there that, headline generators and things, but it's always like what if, or discover, or something like that. And then I lead it into, and I try to keep it 16 words or less, but I really just make a list of all of the key features that I have, all of the key problems that the things solve, and then using different angles in there, like easy, simple, those kinds of language and elements in there. For example, we have a service company that we have done optimization for a couple of years now, where we figured out that anytime we use the words easy and simple, and we paint that picture of easy and simple, and we take the guesswork out of it, that's when the visitors truly respond to that. So we're using that to basically revamp and overhaul the entire basis of their marketing, and everything we're doing is leading up to simple and easy, and pulling that difficulty out of it in just a few simple clicks, and the time tested things, like it's the 3-minute formula, or 7-minute abs, it's all of that kind of element that you pull in there. But I try to keep it short. I try not to use a lot of fake scarcity or urgency. I like to keep it simple and look for the long term, versus trying to get that quick win in there, because I can boost your conversion rate. It's just, you're not going to like me because it's using tricks, gimmicks, and tactics. You're not going to like me in 6 months when your offer is burned out. But we try to look for the long term. But in terms of the formula, I keep it really, really simple. I keep it. I don't like reinventing the wheel. There's one thing, and I'm not a master storyteller in terms of the copywriting anymore. I used to be, really, really good at it. But it's become more about, to me, headlines, calls to action, benefit bullet statements, risk reversal kind of elements, instead of really, really long form. So, and one element we're seeing right now in terms of writing and style, particularly in lead generation, is the smaller, the simpler, the less info on the page, the higher the conversion rate. So kind of almost like a blind offer. We're seeing that kind of come back into a trend now, where it kind of went away for more long-term stuff or long-form stuff for a while.
Yeah, valuable. Love it, love it. By the way, I don't know about the main point of writing like catchy headlines because I always get this trap on YouTube. When I open YouTube, I can see some content that I'm not interested right now, but when I read these headlines, I this content can steal my time, but I'm not their customer. I don't know.
Yeah.
It works. It works. I agree with that because they can take attention, but I'm not sure it's a good idea. For example, for paid marketing, when you get attention from not customers, you can take them, but they don't buy. But who knows? Maybe I can buy. It depends. Can you tell about writing actually on landing pages? For example, if I open Apple, I can see short sentences, even quotes like make difference, not for long. But otherwise, I can see many landing pages with a lot of text. How to find this balance between short and long form in landing pages if we want to convert?
So one, it comes down to testing. So just test one versus the other, usually taking a big swing. And really what I say is something I learned many, many years ago when I was studying copywriting, full time essentially, is your copy should be as long as it needs to be to get the job done. And the only way to get that and get there is through testing. So you need to figure out just what the visitors care about. I would start with short, and then if that converts, then I would test a full longer one, and then I would test a hybrid. So some of the elements that I'll take is video versus no video, long copy versus short copy, blind calls to action, meaning just click the button, then the form pops up, or the action box pops up, with or without social proof, with or without pre-headlines. And then I test those different angles in terms of the flow, and then you can refine it incrementally from there, meaning then you can test the button colors and the labels and the imagery and the headers versus no headers, and the list goes on and on. But I just try to take those big swings when I'm approaching it, particularly from a simple landing page perspective or an opt-in perspective in lead generation. That's kind of how I approach it from when I'm trying to optimize or dial in that offer.
Yeah. Can you tell about creating landing pages for non-recognizable brands? For example, I don't know, let's imagine I want to sell t-shirts and I need to compete with Nike, Adidas, any other brands, but my brand is not recognizable. Nobody knows about this brand. But I have high quality products. I'm going to sell them. And I know that people can ignore such brands because they don't know they can trust or not about the quality. Can you tell how optimize pages, landing pages for non-recognizable brands?
Not recognizable brands, find your differentiator. Because we work with a lot of companies that don't necessarily have a big name. They're not going to compete with companies like Nike or Adidas on athletic clothes, or Lululemon and those other ones that are big in the market. So you have to find your differentiator. So do you use different fabric? Do you use different, what's that going to solve? Are they better fitting? You can take things like Untuck It, those kinds of shirts. They took a simple dress shirt and made it very simple and added a differentiator in there. So nobody's really reinventing the wheel in a lot of cases in apparel. So you have to lead with your differentiator and your unique selling proposition and why they should really care. And then again, just take that risk off their plate, with, that you stand behind your product 100%, you have longer money back guarantee than somebody is typically used to. You have all the payment options, you have all of those elements, you have those frequently asked questions, you set the expectation for when they're actually going to receive the product and what's being shipped. Those kinds of things will help set yourself apart. So you just have to lean in heavily onto your unique selling proposition until you have some brand equity that's going to help carry it.
I'm interested about time value or lifetime value. I mean, like, for example, if cost per click is high, like, I don't know, $10 or $50 sometimes in many niches, and many brands can get these clicks because of selling one customer more than one time, many times for a long time, and customers can recommend their products to their friends, to invite more customers, and you can't get back all your money after one sales, but you can get it after selling like 6 months or an year. Can you tell how to measure this lifetime of cost per click that we can get back our investment?
Well, lifetime value is one of the hardest metrics to actually calculate and figure out, because you have so many different variables. So what I typically will recommend is looking at a period of time, either a quarterly basis or a 6-month or even an annual basis. I'm not looking more so on an annual basis, but I'm looking for trends in that overall data. I'm looking for more internal average order values. I'm looking at some of my repeat customer rate. If we're talking like e-commerce, Shopify gives you, for example, that metric. And then you can look for overall trends in that. But it comes down to email, building that overall experience for the visitors, because we know if you create a better experience, they're gonna buy from you. They're gonna likely tell their friends. So attribution is literally the $1 billion question. I don't even say the $1 million question. It's the $1 billion question, just because I've worked with companies that have full data science teams and they still can't figure out attribution in a lot of ways. And particularly now that the landscape's changing in paid media, Facebook's become Meta, and then, Apple's not playing nice with all of their different platforms, and all of the other companies are kind of being bullies to each other. So it's making it harder for marketers to get some attribution, and particularly in an omnichannel environment. So we're trying to measure what we can measure and try to improve there. But lifetime value is pretty difficult because you have to kind of pull into some specific algorithms. And I know there are solutions out there to help you calculate that. But for us, from an optimization standpoint, I'm not looking necessarily on the lifetime value. I'm looking at more so from an initial average order value. I'm looking at from like a 1 month value, a 2 month, 3 month, 6 month, even 1 year value. That'll give us a better, because if I can be profitable then and there, then lifetime value should, work itself out. And it just really depends also too on what type of product you have and how many products you have and those aspects. But if you have something like us, where we have very few products, in terms of service, it's a little easier to calculate that lifetime value versus if you're selling a bunch of $30 t-shirts, it makes it harder to, calculate specifically what that lifetime value is when you're only seeing the initial average order value in your platforms.
Yeah, interesting. Let's talk about overselling. For example, I often open landing pages and see push messages, buy, convert, open free account. Yeah, it's hard to consume content because of a lot of these messages. If I scroll down, I can see more of these messages. Can you tell? It's a good idea or not if we get such disruption messages, buttons, notice, or how to find the balance between call to action and actually content?
So I go to simpler first. So if there's a pop-up, you're seeing like, so-and-so just bought this, so-and-so just bought this. It pops up every 15 seconds. My number one test, if I see that, is to hide it. Like I'm going to hide it, because I do not like any additional movement on pages. That's how I shop, and it annoys me. I'm a marketer, so I know what's behind it. I see right through it. So all of those additional pop-ups and all of those elements, I like things to be user initiated. So same thing with swipes and scrolls and everything else. I want it user initiated. So I try to find out on that page using heat maps, click maps, etc., where the visitors are at on that page, what they're actually clicking on, how far they're scrolling on the page. And then I might see where the main drop-off points are. And then I might inject a call to action there, a subtle one. or a small banner or something, instead of being just like a huge pop-up, like buy, go, go, go. Same thing with like sales and promotions and elements. I'm not one to jump to discounting for the sake of trying to boost conversion rates. So I don't like to use that fake scarcity, fake urgency, kind of everything's on sale always. I like to let the product stand on its own and try to find the right pricing match that'll allow it to be evergreen. And then when I do run a promotion or you do run a sale, then it's going to be more effective because everything's not on sale all the time. And it's very hard to pull up from that once you start going down into that rabbit hole of discounting for the sake of conversion rate.
Yeah, love it. Let's talk about creativity. You mentioned a few times about simplicity, but I see on your background the heart. It's the first time when I see the heart like this. I see Einstein, on your background. Can you tell about creativity? How to find the right balance between creativity? Because when I ask designers to draw some unique creative design, they can, get out from some limits, standards, and customers can annoy to see something like this. It's not related to the products. Your best practices of to be creative to create landing pages.
So it goes back to keeping it simple again, but I have UX designers that do it. And I go from more so a UX designer than I do a graphic designer, because it's easy to design something that looks cool, but it's harder to design something that's functional, that also looks cool, that actually works. So we have to design within brand. And again, how I approach it is a lot different than some, because I want to test everything. I want to split test it. I want to get that direct quantitative feedback from the visitors. I want to figure out, does that design actually work? And I don't want to go for big design changes overall first. I want to test incrementally to figure out what holds weight in the eyes of those visitors and what really matters to them. And once I figure that out, then I can use that to kind of explore being creative and expanding on it and making bigger overall changes versus, just trying to throw something up that I think looks cool, or the designer designs because it looks cool. So I take a very functional approach to it. And I see this all the time, is where companies take that heavy design approach and they think, oh, I just need a new website design, or I just need a new landing page, and it's going to solve all their problems. I just encountered this with a company the other day. We were trying to take the incremental approach with them. And the CEO was like, no, I want big and bold, and I want these massive changes. I was like, do you want results, or do you want big and bold? Like, they don't, you can spend weeks designing a fantastic design, and chances are it's going to convert worse than where you were. I see that with website designs often, where they come to me later and want me to fix it because their conversion rates are in the tank, because they just spent a whole bunch of money redesigning a landing page, or spent redesigning their entire site, and it doesn't convert as well, because you have some familiarity there with your typical audience. So we definitely want to take more of the data-driven approach to that in design. And I do this, really just approaching it from a user experience perspective instead of a graphic design, promotional kind of angle.
Yeah, valuable. Seth Godin told once that content marketing is one marketing left. Interesting quote. I love it. And once I got, the question from my client about creating pre-landing pages, not landing pages, but pre-landing pages that can cover buying journey. And the goal is not to sell these pages. The goal is to lead them to landing pages. Can you tell about the experience of creating such landing pages? Do you have experience with that? And what type of content to create for such pages?
So when you say that, I'm thinking more advertorial, top of funnel, like very just awareness driven stuff. The same thing you can be said with using video. Some of those very clever videos that are out there, those funny, kind of engaging, super high quality, high produced type of marketing videos that you see these days. but I think advertorial, so it's the 5 things you need to know. It's usually something simple like that. 5 things, the 7 things, the questions you need to answer before you think about this. Or, you know, just kind of that kind of engaging content to bring that awareness, to then start building and nurturing that audience, you know, either to capture email or to get them to click through on a landing page. So then you can segment it out via your ads. But I like to keep it simple. I like to do, you know, the simple questions, like the 5 things you need to know, the 7 things you need to know, the 3 simple steps. Here's a story about this person, and I leave it kind of a cliffhanger angle with a little bit of content. You know, the 1 weird ingredient that you need to know, kind of in the weight loss world or the fitness world, that really drives it out. But again, it comes down to simplicity there too. But it has to be engaging. It has to leave them questioning and wanting more. So that's, you know, that's where the open loops kind of happen from copywriting, and really most of those advertorials are very copy driven, are very, you know, copy centric. And I see those working well in a lot of specific offers, not necessarily in companies that are using massive amounts of product, meaning they have a whole big product line. But if you have like a few SKUs and are very simple, then I would keep it down. But any good copywriter can usually drive out some of those kind of engaging open loop scenarios. Same way as I treat a landing page, same way as I treat, you know, a product page or even a home page on a e-commerce store. I just try to figure out, you know, what questions they have and then have it engaging enough. But most of the time, those advertorials or top of funnel situations are going to be simple too, just like an opt-in. Very few questions. You want it to be easily consumed, particularly on a mobile device. You want it, you know, to flow really well, and then you want that clear call to action. Next step. And leave them wanting to actually click on it, not just a banner or an advertisement on that page. It's like, here are the 3 ingredients, and you talk about 2, and it's like, for the 3rd, here, continue on and watch this video, and get them to click through, and then get that micro commitment is what we call it, and which is vitally important even in e-commerce. It's clicks on that homepage hero, it's add to cart, it's, you know, those abandoned checkout rates, it's those micro commitments and things that you want them to take little steps. A good example of this is quizzes, which a lot of companies use to educate. It's asking simple questions and get them engaged in that process. Like, how old are you? Are you a male or a female? You know, what are these 3 multiple choice things? So you get them engaged, and it progressively gets harder. And then the solution is you ultimately get their email, or they ultimately buy a product. So it's taking that approach to it.
Nice. Interesting. I have the question about learning. For example, let's imagine you started from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills. What will you do to learn more about conversion rate optimization? In order to increase sales for your products.
Conversion rate optimization, I would go in and just study old school marketing books. If I had nothing, I mean, obviously I've been doing this for a very long time, but I cut my teeth on affiliate marketing. I did copywriting as a service. I was just a student of marketing, but then I figured out the psychology of marketing is I could change one little element and I can boost my results. So it got me down the rabbit hole of psychology, studying people like Jay Abraham, you know, old school techniques and tactics. Dan Kennedy, kind of those copywriting, original old school direct response, fax on demand, direct mail kind of people is where I really got my start. And then obviously I wrote a book on optimization just from the decade or so that I, you know, had of doing it for myself and for other people. So I wrote the book really just to educate people on the importance of optimization, because conversion rate optimization is really less about conversion rate than it is overall experience for the visitors. And I keep saying experience in here like it's like a broken record, but you know, the benefits of that are, you can see, you know, we've seen customer support complaints go down because we've been able to answer a question on a product page, or, you know, you can see cost per acquisition go down, the lifetime value, all of those secondary metrics. And it becomes less and less about, okay, I changed the button color and it raised or lowered the conversion rate. It's more so the journey and the destination of growth and scale versus that quick win tactic that's going to, kind of artificially inflate your conversion rate. So where I approach it is really, when I'm first starting out, is that qualitative, which I talked about earlier, asking those questions, using those surveys, click maps, heat maps, and really just trying to understand what your visitors truly care about. And you can study other companies in your market that sell to similar demographics. They don't have to sell the same type of product, but they have to sell to a very similar demographic, because there's only so many ways you can slice and dice a demographic. Men are going to shop different than female. Different age brackets and groups are going to shop different or respond to different elements. And you want to appeal to them in a certain way. So I use optimization like that. It's to create, again, that better overall experience, and just try to figure out what these visitors really truly care about. And then marketing becomes easy at that point, because you understand their wants, needs, likes, dislikes. We saw this during COVID. We saw this, recently with the supply chain issues and some other things where, and even with inflation where it is at the time of recording this. So we saw companies that had their finger on the pulse of what their visitors truly cared about come through COVID and all of the shutdowns and all of that very well. And we saw companies that didn't, and just kind of tried to muscle their way through it instead of being smart about it, from an optimization perspective. We saw people lose 90% of their revenue, and we saw businesses go out of business. But those that leaned into it and knew their customers and knew it can evolve very quickly. And that to me is optimization. So it's really just understanding that, and it helps you evolve and constantly understand and know it, and particularly in different cycles and different times of year, on how your visitors are going to respond. And the better you can do that, and take that data-driven approach instead of assuming, the better off you're going to be.
Nice. I have the question about what to do first. For example, we know about this question, chicken or an egg. Nobody knows. Yeah, we can assume. For example, in marketing perspective, I often see different opinions about writing text or design. Now, for example, I think it's better to write text before design, but I know many great marketers who think differently. That's okay. They usually draw design and then submit text. What about conversions? I mean, like, how to consider conversion rate optimization? For example, we need to create design and content and then submit buttons, call to action, or it's better to create this call to action and surround with the content around that. What do you think about?
I usually lead with the content first, and then we'll design around it. So again, going back to old school copywriting, is your text is ultimately what's going to sell. The images, the experience, and everything is going to support that. But what leads you down that path is going to be the copy, is going to be the content, is going to be the meat of the actual element. And this can be done in different ways. You could use imagery supported with some text. You can use video. You can do some of those things, but that content has to lead that visitor down that path of least resistance of where you want them to go. But I think you need to have that text first. You need to have those key benefits. You need to have those features supporting the benefits. And you need to really just have all of your unique selling propositions and angles and elements in place before you can design it. I mean, a good design without any copy is kind of pointless. I mean, you really can't have anything from there.
Yeah, got it. Okay, I have the final question about the future. Can you forecast the future of content and rate optimization? For example, the reason why I'm asking about that, because many fixes are coming. I don't know, like Metaverse, many others. And I have a huge audience of students who don't know where to jump, what to do, what to learn. And from your experience, what do you think? What kind of future will be, and how to prepare skills yourself to this future?
Well, marketing hasn't changed since I've been doing it for 20 years, almost 22 years. The mediums change. So marketing psychology, I think, is always gonna be there. I mean, it's at the end of the day, and I've said this since the beginning of my career, is we're dealing with people at the end of the day in some capacity. So they have wants, likes, dislikes, needs, and then you just plug in those mediums. It's how you reach them. It's how you engage with them. That's the only thing that's really changed. So where I think it's going probably from an optimization perspective is a little bit more machine learning. I don't think it's going to be on full on AI yet. They still have a long ways to go for that computer element, but I think it needs to be supported of humans. So it needs to have that human element. And that's why conversion rate is what it is. We use a very data-driven approach to basically prove or disprove whether we're right or not, as well as some personalization. So a lot of personalized experience and shopping experience is becoming more and more prominent. So we're using those individual buckets to really, if they're interested in swimsuits, we're not going to show them sweatshirts, that kind of, if they're a man or a woman and they come in and they're engaging, we're not going to show them, women's clothing to men and vice versa, unless that's what, they're engaging in those different aspects. So I think that's really where it's going, but the human element of it, as long as you're doing it the right way, I think is going to be, always there. But I think some more of that machine learning aspect to help that customer journey along is kind of where we're going next.
Yeah, Justin, a big pleasure. Thank you for all your valuable insights. Tell our audience how they can reach out to you, learn more about you, follow you.
Yeah, you can find out more information about us just at conversionfanatics.com, as well as our sister/parent company, fusion92.com. And happy to help out in any way that we can.
Okay, guys, you can find these links in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again, Justin, for your time. A big pleasure. Welcome back anytime, to share more value. You mentioned a few times about simplicity and our sponsor. Thanks for the sponsor. That makes software made simple, yeah, it's related with your message. And thanks, guys, for listening and watching us.